Hello everyone and welcome to another supplementary video. My name is Kasanas. Guys, in the last video we took a look at particle systems at the kind of starting settings for the particle system. In this episode we're going to kind of look at making those particle systems unique through the additional settings. All right, let's get started. Okay, guys, to start off with, in the last video, I was telling you about creating that kind of weird burst that you could do with the right settings, and I didn't have the right settings, so I actually went through and I did it to make sure I had it for you. So if we take a look, if I hit play on this thing right now, I'm kind of getting this kind of burst of material coming out, a burst of particles coming out. It's not like the burst that we saw previously, but they're kind of coming out in kind of a ragged setting. The reason is because I was able to go through, I made sure that the start lifetime is all the same, so we're kind of getting them all coming out. We're seeing that burst now. I made sure that the start lifetime was all the same, just so you could see it. I went through and I changed the maximum particles to 100 and the rate over time to 300. So I'm kind of getting this burst until we hit the maximum value of 100 coming through. If I change this to, let's say, 500, you're going to see that the burst is even be quicker. All right, if I change it to 1,000, it'll get quicker and quicker and quicker. All right, so that's basically how you kind of create that burst. If I slow it down and I set it to 100, you'll see we're getting much a longer burst and stuff's flowing out over time. Okay, that's not actually what I want to talk about in this video. What I actually want to talk about in this video is the additional settings that we're seeing right down here inside of the options. We talked about shape last time, so everything kind of below shape we're going to talk about today. The first thing we actually have to talk about is I want to come down here to the renderer just for a moment, and we kind of skipped over this the last time. This is the default particle system here. You saw when I hit play that it looked different than the last video. In the last video, the material itself was the default sprite option. So this is the default sprite option, and if we come in here, oops, and we hit our particle system and we hit play, we're going to see the default, the same thing we saw last time with the squares, right? The default particle system material is actually much different. It had that kind of look. Let me just swap her out one more time down here at the bottom and go to the default particle. Is this it? It is. Yes, the default particle system. So you can see that changing out the material is going to change how how the particles themselves look. What I'd like to do, I'm gonna hit stop here. What I'd like to do is just go through and create show you how to create a new material that we can add ourselves to our material options on our renderer. So I'm going to right click inside of my project. I'm going to go to create and I'm going to look for material right here. Boom, and I'm going to click it. And we'll just call this our particle material. That's what we'll call it, part material. You can see right now it comes in with this kind of standard shader. We do not want to use this. We want to actually go through and find ourselves an actual particle material. So down here, once I select this little drop down, I can come down here to particles, and I've got a couple of choices, standard surface or standard unlit. The standard unlit does not require lighting. I had my lighting turned off. It's not actually doing anything right now. So I'll put in here my standard unlit. So it doesn't actually require lighting. If we go into our rendering mode here, our rendering option, we have a bunch of different choices. And depending on what we choose, as far as the actual object itself is concerned, I'm going to put something in the albedo right here. I'm actually going to put in this face right here. I'll put in this face. So depending on what we put in here, you can see I kind of got this really weird ragged thing around this face. Depending on what we put in there, if we add this right now to our particle system, we generate these little faces and they'd have the square around it. It would look terribly ugly. If we want to go in and make sure that we kind of cut it out, we can either cut out the face itself. There we go. I've used the alpha to kind of cut out the face. We can use the fade option or the transparent option as well, all of which, so we have to adjust the transparency option, which I'm not going to do right now. But all of these options, actually, both the fade and the transparent option are going to allow us to actually fade these particles out, which is one of the settings in the advanced settings we're going to take a look at today. So let's say I like this. This is what I want to generate now. These Kasana's heads, or actually they're not Kasana's heads, they're just like little warrior heads. We will check it out. So I'm going to go to my particle system. Down in my renderer, I can simply drag and drop this new system directly in here. So I'm going to drag and drop in my material. Boom, drag in my new material. And now when I hit play down here, you can see it's generating all those little heads. All right. So we're going to use these little heads to kind of take a look at some of the options on the advanced section up here. So we'll close off this renderer for now. We're not going to do all of them because there's a heck of a lot of them. And a lot of them kind of work in a similar manner. And it's a good idea for you to kind of play with them as well. So I think what makes sense is to kind of let's take a quick look at what we've got over here. We've got a bunch of these things that say like velocity over lifetime, a bunch of things that say over lifetime. We also have a bunch that say by speed, by speed, by speed. So all of those are going to work in a similar manner. So over lifetime means the changes will occur over the lifetime of this object, of the particle itself. So if the particle has a longer lifetime, the changes will take place slower. And if it has a shorter lifetime, then it will take place quicker. Again, based on speed, if it is moving at a slower velocity, it will change slower. And if it's moving at a faster velocity, it will change at a faster rate. So there's a bunch that are like that. And then there's a bunch that are actually that don't have anything associated with it. So inert velocity, noise, collision, triggers, sub-emitters, texture sheet animation, lights, trails, custom data. All these things don't have that kind of extra thing. We're not going to cover a lot of these. We'll cover some of them. Maybe I'll just start off by showing you a couple of different options on how things might work. All right. So let's say we want to change. If I hit play right now, we can see that these heads are coming out and they're all kind of the same color. If we want to change how these things looked over their lifetime based on the color, like the color itself, what we could do is we'd come down here and we'd go ahead and click on the color over lifetime option. That now turns it on and means we're going to be using this color over lifetime. Now, there's not actually anything in here right now. It's just saying, hey, right now, for your whole life, you're going to just be the standard color. If we click on this option right here, it's going to bring up a brand new window, this gradient window. And you can see there's other options in here as well, random between two gradients or just the gradient. We're just going to leave it as the gradient option for now. And the way the gradient option works is we have two little arrows, one on the top and one on the bottom, on the top and bottom right now. That's what comes in at a base standard. And let's say we wanted these things to, over their lifetime, slowly change to a different color. Let's say we wanted to slowly change into a nice purple color. All right, you can see, I'm going to change it with this deep purple. You can see already what's happening is it's going from white as they're released, and over their lifetime, they are changing to that deeper purple color. Uh, right now, these things are all kind of living for the same amount of time, so they're all kind of dying off at the same amount of time based on when they're released. They're all dying along this area here, so they're all changing at exactly the kind of the same rate over their lifetime. If you went through and you adjusted this lifetime so that they had different lifetimes instead, they would be changing at different rates. So as a quick example, if I change this to between two constants, you can see now that they are changing at a different rate. They're dying off as well at a different rate. That's why we're getting that constant flow now. All right, let's just keep it at the constant of zero point 0.2. All right, and there we go. We're going to get back into that kind of bursting effect that we had previously. Not 0.2, sorry, 2. So you can see these things are all being generated and over time they change. Now, if we again wanted to make more changes to this color down here, let's say I wanted to add another color in here, kind of this intermediate color, I can click anywhere along here. Let's say I click right here along the edge and it says, okay, this is where we're at right now. And I can adjust how quickly or how slowly these are changing. If I want to move this, I can move up here. So now I'm staying at its base color for far longer. And as they get to the top, they are turning towards a purple. You can see how the gradient itself has changed, right? I can actually add an entirely different color in here. So I'm going to put this right back in the middle somewhere. And let's adjust this color. Let's say I want it to have some kind of blue. So I'm going to come over here to the blue. And there we go. Now we've kind of got that white fading into the gradient of blue, fading into the gradient of purple. So we kind of got all those things in there. All right. And that's how easy it is to change. And over their lifetime, these things are changing. So we're kind of getting this interesting look. Now, along the top, what we're seeing is the alpha. All right. So right now it's saying a solid alpha the entire time. If I wanted to set this up so that I had an alpha that was fading over time, I could click on this option right here. You can see it changed to alpha down here. And let's say I wanted to go to 0. So now we can see, because of the fact that I've used the fade option in my material, I'm getting the particles themselves fading out. They're not just kind of snapping off, they're fading away over time. And in exactly the same way, we can adjust this. So if I wanted to put this in the middle instead, so they faded in the middle, and then at the end here, I want them to go back to 100%, we would get this kind of fade in the middle and the 100% afterwards. So you can see how this is working, right? It's working by adjusting these values. And you can kind of do anything you want to this. You can add as many as you'd like in here and have as many different colors, etc. And all of the over lifetime options are going to work in the same manner. Let's just do another quick one, for example, here. Let's do rotation over lifetime. So I'm going to click on rotation over lifetime. I'm going to come down here right now saying rotate 45 degrees over their lifetime. And you can see now how those heads are slowly twisting. And depending on the rotation they had, they're going to rotate more or less. We can change this to random between two constants and have it go between negative, let's say negative 90 and 90. So we're going to get a variation in the rotation. And these are going to continue to rotate over the entirety of their lifetime. They're coming in with the initial rotation we gave it up here, the start rotation, which was some weird value. Make this negative 20 and 20. So it's coming in with some kind of rotation. And then down here, we are rotating it over its lifetime. So now we're getting these objects rotating slowly over their lifetime. And that's how they all work. They all work kind of in that same way. Let's say we want to do rotation by speed. We could do exactly the same thing, rotation by speed, if we wanted to. Let's try a by speed. To do this, I'm going to show you how this is going to work. I'm going to turn on rotation by speed. Again, you can see how they're all rotating exactly the same because they all have exactly the same speed. But if I wanted to, let's go up here and change some of these values. So we won't get that burst effect anymore. But let's change this speed to random between two constants. And now you can see some of them are rotating more or less depending on how fast they're going. All right, the ones that are going slow are rotating less over time. The ones that are going fast are rotating more over time. They get more rotation. All right, sorry, over speed, not over time. I keep saying over time. Over speed. All right, and you can turn these various options on or off, all depending on how you want it to look or what you want it to do. So I won't go through any more of the kind of over lifetime or over speed options. Maybe we'll take a look at something else. Okay, so why don't we take a look at trails? Let's take a look at trails. I'm going to start this playing again. So right now we can see that we've got our objects going up in the air. As soon as I turn on the idea of trails, boom, because this is going to have an immediate effect, we can see that our trails are automatically taking on some of the characteristics of our particle, first of all. We are getting these long line on the trails themselves. If I open up trails here, we can see we have a number of different options. We can start off with, this actually normally comes in at 1. Yeah, it normally comes in at 1 like that. I think all these other things, width over trail, no, these all come in, I must have been playing with this earlier, all come in at a value of 1 like this. So by default, this is exactly what we see. We can see that the trails themselves have the same width. They have a width of 1, the same width as the particle system itself by default. But we can go through and we can adjust these things here really relatively easily. Again, we can do a bunch of different things. We can turn on different modes for it, how we want it to look. We can change the material itself. The material of the trail is actually right here available inside of the renderer. It has a default line material right now. If it has none, if it had none, I won't change it. If it has none, this whole thing would be purple. It might come in with default of none. I forget now. If I had played with this earlier, I don't remember. I apologize. But it might come in with a default of none, at which time you'll have to put in some kind of default material in there to make sure that it has a value. If it's just plain pink, pure pink, that means that you don't have a material associated with that particular aspect. In this particular case, it came in already with a default line material, so we're kind of getting this line that changes. And you can see how it takes on all the same characteristics as the particle itself. We can change a bunch of different things here. Right now, it's a 1-to-1, so for every particle, there's actually a trail as well. But if, let's say, I reduce this to 0.25, you're going to see that the majority of our particles don't actually have a trail. So you can say how many particles have a trail. The same thing will happen with lights, etc., etc. So they'll all have similar things. If I put this back to a value of 1, not zero point 0.1, a value of 1, we can see that there's a bunch of different things we can change as well. So let me see, what do I want to change? Let's say we want to change the color of the trail. We can change it right here. The width of the trail right here, we can change this. This can be a constant between two values. So let's say we change this to Let's say we change this to, let's try a curve this time instead. So we can actually change it to curve in here. The curve itself is immediately available right here, and we can adjust how this curve looks simply by dragging around the different options over the lifetime of the trail itself. All right, so that's how you do a curve, and all the curves again will work exactly the same way. So you can set this curve up however you'd like for any of the other options as well that has the curves as the option. Let's take a look if we wanted to change this, and you can see how it changes here. Let's say we want to change it back to, let's say, random between two constants, 0.1 and 1. So the value of the trail itself, some of them have a full length, some of them are really, really skinny. And we can see all these differences here. And you can go through and you can actually change anything you really kind of want within this trail. How long does it live? So right now it's living for the same amount of time as a particle, but let's say we change this to instead to 0.25. Now you'll see that the trails themselves shrink and they kind of die off before the particles themselves do. Yeah, so all of these things here can be going, you can go through and change this to kind of get the effect that you want out of your trail. The trails themselves operate in a similar manner to many other things. So, for example, for the lights, if we actually turn on the lights, I'm not going to do it, but if we turn on the lights, you can see that there's again a ratio, and you can adjust the lights in any way you want. Now, the lights option would go through, and if you had a ratio of 1, it would have a light on every single particle, and those lights affect your scene, and it's going to light your scene. So if I'm generating 300 particles like I'm doing right now, that's going to add 300 lights to my scene. That's going to be really, really heavy processing power. So be really careful when you start to add things like lights and triggers and collisions and all that kind of stuff, because every single one of these is going to increase the amount of processing time that your game requires, right? If we add more triggers to our scene, if I suddenly have 300 triggers in a scene, then all of those collision calculations have to occur. It's really tempting. Let's say I want to make a flamethrower. I can make a flamethrower that has the flames themselves as the trigger, so you can kind of have the spread out. It's really tempting to do this, but if you're not careful, you can make your game really, really heavy, really, really quickly because you're generating so many particles. And every time you add something more to your particle, it's generating it for every single particle. Unless, of course, like I said, you adjust this ratio. So we're not going to talk about texture sheet animation. That's something we're going to do later on. Let's talk about sub-emitters. This will be kind of the last one I guess we do. We'll take a look at sub-emitters, and let's turn off trails for now. Let's just stop this for now. The way sub-emitters work, sub-emitters themselves are going to work by launching another particle system once something happens. That's pretty vague. So let's take a look at what I actually mean. What happens is whenever we can set this up, you can see right now it says on birth, submitter says on birth. We can set it up so that a new particle system, which is currently missing, a new particle system is spawned whenever something occurs. And this is on birth or on death, etc. If I turn this on, you can see that I have on birth, on death, collision, etc. There's a bunch of different things that can happen here. What we're going to do in order for this to work, what we have to do is we have to create ourselves a brand new particle system. So let's go up here, object, and let's go to our effects, and we'll create one really quickly here. Our particle system, let's go in, and we are going to, it has to be a child, first of all, of this original one. So let's change its name to FX particles. All right, and let's zero it out. Let's actually put it on our old particle system. So now it's part of our old particle system. Let's zero it out. So I'm going to set this, reset. So now our new particle system's on top of our old one. It's a child of our old one. That's really super important. What we're going to do is let's kind of make a little burst every time that the particle is born, one of our original particles is born. I'm going to go through and change this to a value of 0, actually our emissions over time. And I'm going to add a little burst in here. So we have our 30 burst. Let's go in and change our shape. So we're kind of a circle instead. Let's grab our circle here. And let's actually rotate this guy -90, -90. So therefore, now it's bursting like that. I don't like the way that's actually bursting because it's too big. So let's just change this a little bit so we can see it better. Let's change our start speed to, I don't know, 0.25. Is that big enough? That's really boring and slow. But let's just leave it. Actually, let's change it to a higher value. So let's put it back to 5, not 0.5, 5. And let's just change its lifetime so it bursts and doesn't move away so much. So its lifetime is going to be 1. How's that look? Still too much. 0.25, just so we can see it. All right. So this is what the particle currently looks like. This one here. It bursts. It only lasts for too much, too little. One. Okay, one is good enough. It's good enough. I don't know why I'm trying to make this perfect. Okay, it's a child of our original particle system. We now have this thing here. It's not actually currently doing anything right now. It's just kind of bursting on its own. It's going through its own paces every so often within its duration. It's going off on its own. If I change this to a two, it's gonna go off a little earlier. Now let's go down here. What we're really oh, I just changed the wrong one. I changed the duration of my good guy. Let's change this guy just so it's happening a little more often. All right, let's go into our particle effect right here. And what we want to do is set it up so that every time one of these guys is born, it's going to blast that particle out. All right, we're going to go down here to our sub-emitters. We're going to find our sub-emitters again. Sub-emitter right here. And we're going to put our particle system right inside here. So now every time one of these guys is born, that burst occurs. That's actually pretty hard to see. So let's actually change our max particles to 1. So we're only going to get 1 particle for this guy every turn. Max particles instead of 100, we'll change it to 1. So now we're getting 1, and every time that our particle is born, we get that second burst coming off. That's how the sub-emitters work. And again, you can change it so it's on death. Let me make sure. I know death was broken a while ago, but let's just change it to death and see how this works. Death. So now, whenever this guy dies, boom, it's kind of going off. Kind of like, think of it like a firework, right? If we add our trails back to our original particle system, we got ourselves a firework. Look at that. Go down here, find our trails. Where am I going? Trails. Let's turn our trails back on. And then boom, it explodes. All right. So that's basically how the additional particle systems work. It's really powerful. If you take your time, you can make some really, really cool systems. This is how you're going to add juice to your game. Adding particles, adding some post effects to your game. These things have an almost instantaneous effect on how your game is perceived. As soon as you have these interesting interactions that occur, as soon as you have these visual components and some audio components as far as feedback is concerned, it instantly changes how people think about your game and what they feel about your game. All right, everyone. That's it for this particular episode. We went through and did some of the advanced systems. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. Take some time and play with the particle systems. Work with them, get what you want out of them, and your game's going to look a lot better. All right, everyone. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below, and if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.